Hi, today I thought I'd do a bit of a voiceover over on the video instead of adding music and explain what I'm doing. So this is my art journal, which I do every morning, and it's just about getting out of the brain or the mind into the present moment, into the intuition and the flow. So usually I do a few minutes of grounding, or just gently close my eyes so I'm a bit more present for the exercise. So I'm using a stable brush there. It was just an Art Pro one. I can put the link in the description if you need to know exactly what it is. And I'm using the Terraquati 24 palette art set, which I showed you just before. So I've added some of the blue, which is a lovely sort of teal sea blue, and I'm putting plenty of water on so it flows onto the page. And I've started from the middle here because sometimes a blank piece of paper you have no idea what to do. And if you just perhaps start from the middle point, or even just put a dot on the page, that'll just give you a starting point rather than a blank page. So I'm adding obviously more paint, and then a bit of water just to wash it out, and then obviously it bleeds because it's watercolour and it flows. And it's about coming back to your breath and trying to slow your breath down as you work, and noticing if there's any sensations that are coming up in the body that are perhaps uncomfortable, like anxiety or sadness. And it's not about attaching to those, but just noticing and allowing those feelings just to flow through. When we attach to them and stop thinking about them, they tend to hang around longer. I've added a bit of a darker greeny colour there, and I'm just making sort of marks and wiggles around it as well. Notice if there's any sensations that are perhaps coming up for you as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be emotions, or it could be thoughts that are coming up of trying to make a beautiful picture or a perfect picture. And it's not really about that, it's about calming the mind and becoming more present to what you're doing in the moment. And using the intuition part of the brain, the more spiritual, connected part of the brain. And again, I'm adding lots of water to the picture. And then some darker dots on the picture that's already on the paint that's already there. So this is obviously going to spread out if it's still wet. It'll spread out if it's still wet on the paint that's underneath. And then I'm adding some circles and obviously dragging that paint into the centre. I mean, thinking about the centre, maybe I needed to be more centred that morning. So there is perhaps a meaning in the art as well when it comes from the intuitive side of the brain. I think I just dropped a little bit of water in there, and you can see where the water's pushed the paint away. That obviously makes more interesting marks. And then just joining it all together. So this next piece, I've got a swatch card here of my Rowney FW acrylic inks, and I actually chose the golden high flow acrylics, and that was a teal colour, and I'm just putting it directly onto the page and then dragging it out with my brush. And because that's acrylic and not watercolour, it's actually reacting by pushing the watercolour away and making some quite lovely marks there, which was really nice. So now I've got the FW Indigo and putting that again directly onto the page. I mean, they're very, very strong like that, so I've picked up a slightly cheaper brush, which was just a cheaper one to use with the acrylics. I sort of have a watercolour set of brushes and an acrylic set, really, because acrylics can sort of stain the watercolour brushes, and if you leave them to dry, then it's obviously sets permanently more, the acrylic paints. So I've used the indigo ink, and I'm just making marks now and lines on the paper, just to add a bit more interest, and perhaps just how I was feeling about using the paint that morning. I do feel it's quite a flowy picture, this. And even the lines suggest flow, and the dashes. So coming to the end of the video now, and I do hope you've enjoyed it. Just a short little demonstration of what I do in my art journal in the mornings, and just how it helps me start my day in a more peaceful way, calming way, sort of balancing the nervous system, and self-expression. Just to finish off, I use a little bit of waterproof pen, which was a 0.1 size, so it's quite fine, and I just add a few lines at the end here. And thank you for watching.